All right, Mrs. Smith and Mrs. Stewart here, and we're ready to talk to you guys about this year's Tiebreaker Page Turner Challenge. Mrs. Stewart, ready to tell them all about Book Bingo?
Oh, I am so ready. I've got my bingo board, I've got my bingo chips, and I've got some Smarties set aside for when I win.
Mrs. Stewart, it's not that kind of bingo.
What do you mean?
It's book bingo.
Oh, so okay, what's book bingo?
So this year, for the Tiebreaker Page Turner Challenge, we're going to be playing book bingo. And you're going to get a bingo board that looks just like that. There's 30 squares on the board, and each square has a category of a book that you're going to need to read. But this year, we added 4 free spaces, 4 free choice boxes. That way, if you read a book that's not in one of those categories, you can still use it. Or if you've already used a category, say you're a mystery fan, and you want to read a whole bunch of mystery books, well, some more of those books will count because you have extra squares to mark down those mystery books.
All right, so how do I get a bingo?
Just like traditional bingo, if you get all the books in a category up and down or side to side, that's going to be a bingo. But unlike on traditional bingo, we don't have any diagonals.
Okay, so no diagonals, got it.
No.
What happens if someone gets a bingo?
Here's where the fun begins. On your first bingo, Mr. Patterson's going to announce that you got your first bingo on announcements in the morning. So the whole school's going to know. Then you're going to go down to the office and get some nice little bingo swag, nice button that you're going to get to wear or put on your backpack to bling it up.
Okay,
So that's how you do, that's your first bingo.
well, there's a lot more than just one, so what happens if I get more than one?
Well, then you get to have more fun.
Okay, I like
So
that.
for every 2 bingos, you're going to get to participate in a trimester activity. Now, a couple of those that we already have planned. There's an afternoon extra long recess activity. And then in the springtime when it's nice and hot, an ice cream party.
Excellent. Now I'm still confused though. What happens if I get one bingo in one trimester, but then I get another bingo in the next trimester?
So if you get one bingo one trimester and another bingo the next trimester, the trimester that you get your second bingo, you'll get to participate in that trimester activity.
Okay, oh, I'm all over this. My goal is a blackout. So what happens when I get my blackout?
Well, you've had the announcement for your first bingo, you've gotten the bling, you've got the activities. A blackout, you then get the t-shirt at the end of the year assembly.
All right, I love that. So I'm ready to go. I've got my first book all read. I read it, I took the quiz. How do I get my square signed off?
So once you take your quiz and you pass your quiz with an 80% or higher, just like an AR, you take your board to your teacher and your teacher will sign off that square.
Excellent. This is gonna be so fun. Last year I gave up about halfway through, but I'm gonna make it this year.
It's a great way. So, are you ready to tell them about
My
other
extra
little
special surprise? Yes, I am.
Take it away.
I get to read you one of my very favorite stories. And you can take the quiz on this and it will count toward your first square. And what's great about this book is it qualifies for a bunch of different categories you can choose. This one you could mark it off for a story set in a school. It would work for a teacher recommended story, a name in the title. The choice is up to you. So here we go. It's called Hawaii for Wadney Wat by Helen Lester. Poor Wadney Wat. His real name was Rodney Rat, but he couldn't pronounce his R's. To make matters worse, he was a rodent, a wodent. What's your name, Wadney? Asked the other rodents. Wadney Wat, whispered Wadney. What's another name for a bunny? They asked knowingly. Wabbit, he mumbled. And how does a train travel? They winked at each other. A twain travels on twain tracks, Wadney replied miserably. All of this teasing day in and day out made Wadney the shyest rodent in his elementary school. His squeak could barely be heard in class. He gnawed his lunch alone. And while the other rodents scurried and scooted about at recess, Wadney hid inside his jacket. Then, one day, as the rodents were taking turns doing wheelies, a new rodent, a very large rodent, barged into the classroom and announced, "My name is Camilla Capybara, I'm bigger than any of you, I'm meaner than any of you, and I'm smarter than any of you. And then she added, so there. With that, she accidentally on purpose elbowed an ear, bumped 2 noses, stepped on 3 tails, and laid down on a desk. Fur prickled in fear through the classroom. She sure was bigger than any of them. She sure looked meaner than any of them. Was she smarter than any of them? What's 2 plus 2? asked Ms. Fuzzleworth. 4, shouted Camilla Capybara, without even bothering to raise her paw. And furthermore, 4 plus 4 is 8. 8 plus 8 is 16. And 243 plus 125 is 368. Later, when Ms. Fuzzleworth asked, what's the capital of? Camilla interrupted. New York, Albany, population 295,594. And during science, in answer to the question, what part of the plant is below the ground? Camilla Capybara danced on her desk and sang, root, root, rooty-toot-toot. Yup, thought all the other rodents. She's smarter than we are too. They felt very, very uncomfortable. Every afternoon, just before the final recess, Miss Fuzzleworth drew a name from her hat to see who would be the leader for their favorite game, Simon Says. She scrunched her eyes closed and jiggled the hat. Would it be Hairy Hamster, Minnie Feet Mouse, Grizzle Frizz Guinea Pig? Could it be big, mean, smart Camilla Capybara? Ms. Fuzzleworth's paw reached in and pulled out the name of Wadney Wat. The bell rang, and there was a wild scurry for the door, and Camilla Capybara was the first on the playground, having trampled the others in her path. To Wadney, she looked especially scary. What would she do when she heard him speak? Breathe capybara breath in his face, or tie him up with his own tail, or even pounce on him? The tiny, trembling leader of the game stood before the eager players, his head well inside his jacket, and squeaked, Wadney says weed the sign, while the other rodents read, P.S. 142 Elementary School for Rodents. Camilla began pulling up weeds around the sign and wildly flinging them hither and yon till she was clear up to her teeth in dirt. The other rodents began to smile. Wadney says, wrap your paws around your head. He peeked a little peek out of his jacket and saw whap, whap, whappity slappity whap. Camilla became dizzy, gave herself a headache because she was whapping her paws around her head so hard, and she had to sit down. The other rodents couldn't help giggling. Wadney says play wing around a wosy. Camilla put her arms out like wings and made an airplane noise. But where was the wosy? What was a wosy? By now, Wadney's voice was stronger and his head was entirely out of his jacket. Wake the leaves. Nobody moved. Wadney says, wake the leaves. While Harry, Minnie Feet, and Grizzle Frizz and the others busied themselves raking, Camilla Capybara grabbed one leaf. Wake up, she yelled. She snatched another. Come on, you, up, up, up. And another, rise and shine. And another, boo. By now, all the other rodents were squealing with laughter, all but Camilla, who frowned. Stupid leaves, they won't wake up. And why was everyone laughing at her? Such bullies. In a voice so strong he had to hold his own ears, Wadney called, Wadney says go west. The rodents collapsed in a happy heap for a rest. Go west. Camilla Capybara, feeling very smart that she could tell directions by the sun, said, all right, I shall go west. And then she added, so there. West she stomped. Forever. She was gone. And from that day, the pupils of PS 142 Elementary School for Rodents never teased Wadney again. He was their hero. Hooray for Wadney Wat! They cried. Woot, woot, wooty toot toot. The end.
That is always a favorite story. Thank you for reading that for us. All right, you guys have your first book down. Go take the quiz. Get your book bingos going on, and let's make it a great challenge this year.